Hi there. It's the beginning of August 2025, and I just wanted to give you a brief update on my garden pond. It's about 6 months since I gave an update, so it's about time I talked about how the pond has worked out over the last 6 months and also plans for the future. The main reason I haven't given an update in so long is that I've been a bit preoccupied with the building work that we've been doing in our house. And as a result, not only has the house been a mess, but so has the garden. And as you can see in the background, the garden has become quite overgrown, particularly with brambles and other vegetation. And I'm going to spend some of this bank holiday weekend trying to put some order on it. So as you can see, there are plenty of flowers around the pond. Um, in fact, the flowers are probably the biggest success story of the pond. Um, Earlier in the year, back in April, um, the marigolds were out, and I planted a couple of marigolds when I dug the pond. They're invisible now. You can see the leaves of them are just here, but they have spread, and they're starting to spread around the pond, and they're an important source of uh, pollen and food for insects. Really, at the start of spring or end of spring, before most of the other flowers are out. Um, Looking around, the lilies are pretty much done now. They were in flower for most of July. At this stage, they're starting to die off. Um, the water mint, I planted a couple of plants of that when I dug the pond. Now it spreads very quickly, just like ordinary mint. Um, but really, from mid-July onwards, you get these beautiful purple flowers. They're great for bees and other insects, and they'll keep flowering for another couple of months. Um, there's some figwort here and also some ragwort. I've let the ragwort grow in the garden, hoping to get cinnabar moths in and their caterpillars, which are those vivid yellow and black caterpillars. I haven't actually seen any this year here in the garden, so obviously they haven't. The moths haven't found the back garden, but I'll let them grow anyway, and hopefully in future years we'll see some moths. Um, the yellow spearwort is starting to fade now, but in late June, early July, that really was the dominant flower in the garden or in the pond rather, and another useful source of pollen. And also you can see the purple loosestrife. Now I planted purple loosestrife, a couple of plants 2 years ago. Yeah, when I dug the pond, and it is spread, and it is really, to me, one of the defining summer sort of marsh plants or water plants, and again a great pollinator and a great source of food for bees. And here we can see a little bumblebee feeding on the figwort blossoms. So this year has been really warm. We've had very dry, sunny weather, late spring, early summer, and really all summer has been fairly dry. There hasn't been a huge amount of rain. Normally, if it was that sunny uh, for prolonged periods of time early in the year, I would have lots of algae growing on the pond. But I didn't have that problem this year. And that was down to probably one of the success stories of the pond this year. Back in February, the first frog spawn appeared, and really for the whole month, um, more and more frog spawn appeared. So there was obviously plenty of frogs that survived over the winter and were extremely productive during the spring. And the great thing about the frog spawn, it turned into a huge number of tadpoles, and tadpoles, of course, like the green algae, and munch their way through it. So much so that pretty much all summer, um, I have had really no issue with algae. I haven't had to scoop any out. and most of the time the water is clear all the way down to the bottom of the pond. Um, the success of the tadpoles is probably because I created a couple of shelters for them last year. There's one on this side, you can't really see it, it's in the undergrowth, and there's another one over the far side. And it was made from kind of builder's rubble, a pile of bricks that has lots of nooks and crannies, and the bottom of it is below the water line of the pond. So the frogs are able to hibernate there safely over the winter. Um, I'm predicting that quite a lot of frogs will that have emerged will survive. If I walk around the pond, I can see little frogs hiding here because there's such um, a dense amount of foliage and plant life around the edge of the pond. It's quite safe for the little frogs. Really can't be predated here. There are still actually some tadpoles in the pond that haven't transformed yet, and there's a few of them that look quite a bit away from transformation. It does seem strange that as we head into August, it seems strange for me anyway, that as we head into August, there are still, I would say, not a huge number, but a noticeable number of tadpoles still swimming around where their back legs haven't really started to fully develop yet. So even though my frog and tadpole story has been a successful one, I can't say the same for the dragonflies in the pond. Um, there's been almost no dragonflies in the pond this year. Back in May, when I was clearing some shrubbery and briars on the far side of the pond, I came across a dead specimen of a hairy dragonfly, which I'd say had flown into the garden and died. Uh, I chucked it into the pond, and straight away the tadpoles and um, insects converged on it and made short work of it. So until last week, I hadn't made any live sightings of dragonflies in the pond. Last week, a couple of common darters showed up, and finally one of them perched on the branch, which I put there deliberately to attract dragonflies. But apart from those couple of darters, I haven't seen any others. Last year I mentioned that I came across a lot of dead dragonfly larvae. Still don't know what killed them, and I haven't seen any emperors or hawkers at all this year. So I'll just have to keep an eye on it and see what happens. So the two species of damselflies that I've seen over the summer here in the pond are the large red damselfly and the common blue damselfly. The large red uh, is a prolific hunter. Um, you'd occasionally see him swooping or flying around the surface of the pond hunting for flies. And when it catches one, then it goes to a nearby plant, leaf, or flower and finishes them off and feeds on the fly. Um, the common blues were not that common actually. I only ever saw usually just a couple of them at any one time, but they were a constant presence throughout the whole summer. Um, they spend most of their time basking on lily pads or sunning themselves on the side of one of the plants. They're not always blue either, so sometimes depending on their uh, life phase, there can be slightly different colors. One issue I haven't had to deal with this year has been the problem of evaporation in the pond, which I did have an issue with in previous years with my smaller, earlier pond. Even though it was very dry um, for a lot of the early part of summer, um, they this pond is has a reasonable depth in the middle of it, and because it's so much wider, there is quite a lot of water in it, so it can drop quite a bit before there's any problems or any of the species in the pond would start to suffer. Um, One of the things I did as part of the construction work we've just finished with our house is I've changed the guttering system so that all of the flat roof part of the house and including the buildings behind the house, all of that water flows into the pond now. And it really means that even an hour or two of rain will top up the pond to a pretty good degree. Um, so I don't really foresee issues with drought or having to top up the pond with with water barrels or whatever. Um, One thing that is noticeable though is the difference in depth at various times. So the level of the water tends to rise and fall a bit over time, and that's nothing to do with the tides or anything. It is because, as you can see, there is now a very thick layer of foliage and plants around the edge of the pond. And all of that is within the boundary of the pond liner, which runs right out to the path on that side and quite a distance over that side as well. It's buried under soil, but it means that the catchment of the pond liner is quite big. But it also means that all the plant life is sucking up water during the spring and summer months as they're growing. So I can sometimes see really after 24 hours of when there's been rain and the pond has risen maybe a few centimeters, within 24 to 48 hours it starts to settle back down again. And it's not because there's any leaks, but it's just because there are just so many plants now with their roots drawing from the pond itself. Another, I guess, side effect of this thick layer of foliage, while it's very good for insects and also for frogs hiding in it, I think the birds are more reluctant to come down to the pond and either drink or bathe because they don't have a clear view around them. When they're in the foliage, they feel kind of trapped. This area here used to be much clearer, but as you can see, the purple loosestrife and the rushes are starting to converge. I probably won't be able to clear a large enough swathe around the pond to give birds confidence enough to come down and drink. So what I'll probably do is to this side of the pond here, I'll create an elevated drinking and bathing sort of table for the birds, so they'll be safe. They can't be ambushed there. I've also got a bird hide that I built from leftover building material from the house build or the house construction, and I will put the table in front of that so it'll be easier to observe and take some pictures. The main reason I dug this pond was because I had to move the original pond, which was slightly to that side, because as part of our original construction plans, I was going to build a garden shed down the end of the garden. Now we ended up not doing that in the end, um, but I didn't really mind having to dig the new pond because, as it turns out, I wanted a bigger one anyway. And I would say to anybody who's thinking of putting a pond in the back garden, go as large as you can at the start because it's a lot easier to dig a big one at the start than trying to enlarge one later on or move one. I say that from experience. Um, I won't really be able to build a bigger one or dig a bigger one than this, even though there's still quite a substantial part of the garden that's free. Um, One, I think probably garden this pond is probably big enough for me right now, but also I can't get a machine in around the side of the house, so I'd have to dig it by hand. And after I dug this one, my back ached solidly for about 8 weeks, and I'm not in any rush to repeat that experience. But I would say, it's not necessary to have a large pond to attract wildlife. The smaller pond that I had first did just fine. But if you're like me, if you kind of have a hankering for maybe going a bit larger to see what else could what else could be attracted into your garden. Certainly, the pond for me has been a success story. I get a lot of pleasure and satisfaction of just coming down here with a cup of coffee and just seeing what's going on in terms of the wildlife and nature that's in and around the pond. Having said that, um, I do have a new plan, and as I said, while I can't dig a bigger pond here, I do have the opportunity elsewhere. And that elsewhere is a meadow in County Westmeath, where I'm from. It is about 1.2 hectares, or 3 acres, in area and is divided diagonally by a drain. The drain is quite shallow and parts of it dries to mud during the summer. And as you can see, parts of it are full of grass, so you can hardly see any water. There's almost no flow except when there's very heavy rain during winter. But it is essentially a very long, narrow pond, about 130 to 140 meters long. I probably won't get much time this year to do anything with it, but there is potential to create a large pond or two from here. I'll be talking about this project in more detail in future videos. The drain and future ponds are just part of that project. So yeah, even though I haven't really had enough time this year to spend uh, really observing this pond, as you can see, I have embarked on an even bigger adventure where I'll probably have even less time to focus on things. But it's better to have a whole bunch of things to look forward to and have them behind you. So um, I would imagine the next few videos will be about the meadow and the various aspects of the wildlife and nature and biodiversity up there. I've been, I guess, I've been actively visiting the meadow on a regular basis since the start of the year. I've had some trail cameras up there, so I have been kind of recording what's going on up there. I'll probably revisit this pond here in a video at the end of the year. Hopefully by then I'll have put some order on the back garden. I'll have put up the drinking table for the birds, and we'll be prepping for winter. I'll have the feeders out again, and I'll be probably in the middle of the Birdwatch Ireland bird survey, which I would encourage everyone in Ireland to do if you can. But I hope you found this interesting. I hope it maybe inspires one or two of you to dig a pond or dig a bigger pond. Certainly, it is a great way of bringing nature and wildlife into the garden, and also a very easy way of observing nature and wildlife. Okay, take care.